My company is in the manufacturing sector. The name of the company is Custom Technologies. And I wear the, excuse me, I wear the role of CEO and founder. And that means I do so many different things. We're a small company, so I'm doing everything from very CEO type things to very non-CEO type things all blended together. I also, for context here, I also have a single person law firm that I also formed, and I'm a patent attorney, and I do a little bit of law work on the side. And sometimes my clients blend back and forth between the two. And so what I do with Custom Technologies, Custom Technologies is basically a one-stop shop for people who want to produce a product, bring it to market, or produce a product that they already are trying to make. So we basically help people launch products and make things. So our big idea is helping people with their big idea. For the size we are, we're very broad. We do everything from engineering and product design to rapid prototyping to helping customers tweak products that are already designed so that they're more manufacturable. Sometimes designs come out and they look great on paper, but they're hard to make. So we pride ourselves in sitting down with the customer and saying, don't just send me a set of prints, help me help you. Yeah. And so we basically work with them to design their product properly. And then we basically help them bring it to market if it's not already to market. Custom Technologies is sort of an evolution of prior, shall we say, failed experiences that went back even further in my family than my lifetime. So my parents started a manufacturing company back in the 60s, and it had a foundry and a machine shop and all of these manufacturing things that worked together to bring a complex product to market. It had been in existence for about 30 plus years when it started having major challenges due to import changes, all of those things. And so in the early 90s, we made the very terrible, difficult decision to close that company. And Custom Technologies was sort of the panicked regrouping of a family that was trying to figure out how are we going to move forward. And so Custom Tech started in a garage with a little bit of machinery, and we did a little bit of this and a little bit of that for every customer we could find. That's how it started. And to find its path, it took a number of years for it to really find its focus. We were basically a company that said yes to anybody who said they were interested in us helping them. And finally, many years later, we said, okay, what are we really good at? What do we really do best? And how do we market ourselves to say, you know, when people ask, what are we? What do we do? My educational background the first time was physics. I have a master's in physics, intended to be a scientist and engineer type. And, you know, that fit well with manufacturing. But then it seemed like just because we were a small company and family members were each sharing duties, I seemed to get into the office side of things, the administrative side, the operational side, and found myself suddenly doing a lot of the legal things that a company needs and a lot of the business side things that a company needs. So suddenly the physicist was learning how to do accounting and figuring out how to support us on a legal side. And through the many years that I have been an entrepreneur, you know, in the worst of times, I went and got the regular job, worked in big companies, saw cultures that I detested, and have really tried to think about how do I make this company something I'm comfortable with, something I like to say that I have built. And it's all about the team. And along the way, I've had opportunity to pull together some of the very best people. We are small, as I said, but the people we have are just highly motivated. They're like us. They have a reason to want to do what they're doing. We're nerds, and we try to be nerdy and fun. I tend to mitigate my fears and my risks by you know, perhaps obsessive planning and rethinking of how do I fix what's wrong? How do I make it better? And so I think it's very helpful. I'm lucky to have a family who's also involved. I'm lucky and cursed to have a family that's also involved. And we talk through a lot of things. That's very helpful when you have a team around you who lets you bounce things off of. Sometimes just telling your problem out loud is so helpful, so cathartic to be able to work through that. Sometimes an idea or an answer will come to you just by discussing it. So I do a lot of talking and a lot of writing. Recently, we have had tremendous challenges due to COVID. I've been in manufacturing 30 years of my life, and I've never seen anything in the supply chain that's acting the way it is right now. people are not able to bring all of their employees back as quickly as the demand has suddenly jumped back to face them. And so the supply chain is struggling for over demand, under supply. And on top of that, if you might recall, last January, there was a terrible ice storm in Texas. And the Texas ice storm hit, and it impacted some of the products that we buy as raw materials. Some of the foam, injectable foam that we use in our molds to make squishy foam products, suddenly was not available. We have tried to be very, very agile, and I was so proud of what our team did. We basically took a look at all of the resources that our own facility has. We happen to have a laser cutter, and we basically came up with a way to make a modular layered version of this one foam piece and cut it in layers on our laser, stick it together for them, and we were able to produce this. And the irony is they actually liked the new part better than what we were giving them before. so we're very proud of that, trying to be very agile when you see a problem coming your way. I like to say that, you know, in the United States, we try to treat our environment properly. We try to treat our people properly. I want to be able to do that and successfully manufacture things. And I think that's very possible. Maintaining a repository of different manufacturing technologies in a local environment is sort of my goal, my big picture goal for this company. Through the years, you know, our team has learned about foundry processes intimately. We've learned about machining processes, molding processes, so many different things we pull together. And I feel like sometimes, you know, I have to keep this alive because people need to know this, you know. So that's my mantra of what is successful for custom tech. And for me as a person, I think it's very similar. You know, I love building companies. I hardly ever go into any company that I don't sort of look at it and start penciling their balance sheet down in my mind and thinking about their profitability. So for me, it's a game, and it's a fun game. It's a life game to just grow and build companies.
My name is Sam Bertram. I came to the United States in 2011 on a tennis scholarship. Started out in the Central Valley, was successful in the Central Valley, then came to the Bay Area in 2014. Went to engineering school, got my undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering, and then got my master's degree in robotics and mechatronics. And a year before I graduated with the master's degree, I started this business with my brother. The business we started is called 1.1. We developed the world's most sophisticated automated indoor vertical farm. So we can talk about what on earth that means. But also out of that, we spun off another business, which is the world's first personalized farming business. And that is called Willow, W-I-L-L-O. So that is me, and those are the businesses. My brother and myself, we were going back and forth about ideas for a long time. And that was built upon the following foundation. We are all going to be dead very, very, very soon. Really soon, too soon. And you get one swing at the plate. And when you think about it from that perspective, how do you step up to that plate? You walk up to the plate, you figure out what's the biggest ball I can possibly hit, and what bat do I have to build to hit it? How do we make the biggest impact on the earth in the shortest period of time with the fewest resources? The biggest problem we see around the world is disease in general, born of malnutrition, born of inflammation. How do you solve that problem? Plants are the solution to that problem. And they always have been. And so we figured out if we can somehow ubiquitize access to plants in general, we can figure out a way to not only feed people, but also heal them with pharmaceutical grade medicines and vaccines that we grow inside of the plants themselves. And to cut the story short, we figured out if we grow these plants inside of warehouses using autonomous systems to literally print molecules, print plant material, we can make a significant impact on the 1.1 billion people that began this millennium malnourished. The moment we knew where we had to apply ourselves was when we read the statistic that 1.1 billion people began the millennium malnourished. 1.1 billion people. What the heck is that? Triple the population of the United States have no idea where the next meal is coming from. In this day and age, now I'm not blaming anyone. That's not my business. What we're doing is we're trying to solve that bloody problem. So that was the initial sort of, we can't get away from that fact. Just imagine being one of those human beings and then multiply it by 1.1 billion. So that's the name of the company. being a student of history is important. When you understand that 40 million people died in China from starvation in the 20th century, that's bad.
There is a significant difference between young lawyers these days and seasoned lawyers these days, and the way the seasoned lawyers used to be when they were young. What these seasoned lawyers and these seasoned investment bankers do not see is fire. They don't see fire. And if you're a lawyer and you want to climb and you want to make impact, you better bloody have fire. There's no other way to get up that. There's no other way to climb that ladder. Have no illusions to the fact that if you want to make it to the bloody top, be ready to sacrifice. And by the way, what you were sacrificing is nothing compared to what human beings have had to sacrifice over the past 200,000 years. If you want to be a pro athlete, do you think you're going to spend a lot of time sitting on the couch playing PlayStation 5? Probably not. Similarly with this line of business, and the same with lawyers and that line of business. It is a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. Don't expect it to be easy. But again, if it's a mindset, I could easily find 50 things to complain about right now. But why would I? Why should I? What's the point? I managed to find balance. If you're familiar with Newton's approximation method, it is a line and you're trying to find a point on the line and you guess left, then right, then left, then right, and you get closer over time. And that's the best you can do because you're human and you're flawed. So figure out what your North Star is. Understand the fact that your journey to that North Star is going to vacillate back and forth, troughs and highs, and do your best.
My name is Jarrod Hoffman. I'm the third generation of Hoffman Engineering. It was started by my grandfather, who immigrated out from Germany, and his brother in their garage here in Perth, Western Australia. And we've grown now to have 7 factories around the world, in Perth being the largest, but including now South America and North America. So we're a heavy engineering manufacturer. We're engaged in manufacturing across a variety of sectors, the largest being mining, but really anything where we can change the shape of metal and affect a change, a positive change, we get involved with. So some of the areas that we're getting more involved with now is in the renewable energy space, including hydrogen, some in other industrial sectors, general power generation, defense is another growing area that I would include in that list. My role being part of the family is varied from some managerial aspects to the day-to-day project management of jobs through the workshop, as well as overseeing some of our other subsidiaries around the world. So we have a large workshop in Arequipa, Peru, which is tailored for the mining industry, whereby we have a large contract with Freeport-McMoRan, their mine there, Cerro Verde. So that was a catalyst for us setting up big there, but ultimately with that infrastructure in place, that's enabled us then to provide better support to the other surrounding mines and industry there as well. In Antofagasta, Chile, we've got a similar operation there for supporting the copper mines predominantly in that region, where we're performing overhauls of large gearboxes and other transmissions there in that facility. We've got a new facility in Cambridge, Ontario, and we're hoping that's going to help us tap further into the North American market. We've got some exciting machine acquisitions underway, which is going to expand our capacity in that facility now. And similarly, in our part of the world, in Australia, we've got quite a few exciting projects on the go here as well, in terms of new machinery and capacities coming here. It's nice being able to combine, some personal aspects with business, and I was privileged enough to be able to take my family over to South America when we were setting up the workshop in Peru there, and we lived there for a period. So it was a great opportunity to get really involved in some of the day-to-day setup issues and planning, as well as on the side have my family there to experience that along with me. So looking back, especially, I suppose that's even more cherished because of the lack of travel now, where or I personally see that as a positive moment and a really satisfying moment for myself as part of Hoffman Engineering. I think always dealing with some of the HR matters, especially across countries where you don't have a full understanding of the labour laws in those jurisdictions, and you can't deal with matters as you would deal with them in your home country. I think that's a very challenging situation where it's not necessarily a rational, or what I would say is a rational approach to dealing with some of them. That is really a challenge for me. Workplace culture, I think, is something we're consistently trying to improve. I think the way society is changing, we as a business need to as well. We've got various initiatives underway that we're using to try and improve that. So one is leadership courses for our supervisors and management team to help them better engage with our workforce, understand and deal with matters as they come up. Our culture, we've got quite a loyal workforce, I would say, and quite a passionate workforce with regards to their job and their daily tasks. I think that's driven from the family aspect, and that they can see that, right from my grandfather, the founder, that he's hands-on, he's personable. People expect here that if they have a matter, a personal matter even, that we can be compassionate and go above and beyond what perhaps other companies may do in the same situation. Coming into a very complex technical issue or potentially a warranty issue, which we have gladly seldom happens, but does from time to time. I suppose that would be a good scenario where there's fear. I would be reaching out to then my peers around me who can help support. So, some of our senior management team, as well as if there's a subject matter expert in that given field, and lend on them for support to help guide me and work together to overcome that matter, which would quash, hopefully, that feeling of fear. I think it's good to have an understanding of the industry that we're in, even if it's at a basic level, and the type of business that we are doing and who we're engaging with as our client base as well. I think that's a big assistance to a lawyer that we would potentially engage. So, for example, understanding that our biggest customer, for example, is BHP. Their expectations on us as a vendor to them really sets some of the standards that we need to strive to as a business as well. So having understanding of both those aspects, I think, is beneficial.
Founded the company 27 years ago. I had been a partner with a real estate development company from the time I graduated from school, and then when I was just around 29 years old, I started thinking that it was time for me to start looking at going out on my own. I sold my shares in the previous company for $10. And as I suspected, a lot of people that we had been doing business with in my previous life would move over to me. And that's what I was fearful of, but also expected. The day I started my business was the day that Neil Kornfeld, my lawyer, came into my life, was that day. He's been my collaborator in this thing since the day we started the business. Today, we're about 1,600 people. We would be outside of China, one of the 3 or 4 largest private developers in the world. We've got about 50 projects under development right now, and about 60 or 70 that are completed. Those projects would be kind of range in size from the largest in North America today at Oak Ridge being about 7 or 8 billion to smallest, maybe a few hundred million. We're the world's largest net zero developer. We're the world's largest LEED Platinum developer. And as much as people know us on the on the luxury residential end, we're also the largest affordable housing developer in Vancouver as well. So we're in kind of a real mixed bag of stuff. What I'm interested in is the idea of inspiration. I think at the end of the day, inspiration is, after our basic needs of shelter and food and sleep and health and companionship, I would think that inspiration is right there. And I think that people take it for granted. And I also think that people lower their standards. For me, it's kind of, it's the cultural part of the practice combined with the response to climate change. And I think if those are the two kind of themes, everything evolves around that. And then I would say the third theme, which is kind of tied up in those two, is the work that we're doing with First Nations. We have the largest partnership with First Nations in North America history. We're a relatively small team doing a massive amount of work. And we do that because we have all of these partnerships. So my partnership with Kornfeld, with Neil Kornfeld, my lawyer, for example, where his role is like, I guess you could divide into, maybe bifurcate it into two different roles. It's a traditional lawyer relationship.
Right.
And you need to do that. And that's part of just keeping the gears turning.
Yep.
But then there's another part of the role, which is the advisory role. And that role, since literally the day we started the company, is a way for us to get not just get good advice. It's actually like he was our in-house counsel before I had in-house counsel, and then he became really the advisor to the firm and the father figure in the firm. The work that you put into the relationship, and more importantly, to their needs, and to producing the results that they need, that comes back, and it comes back in ways that you never know are you going to need. But it was a really nice reminder that if you're taking a real long view at this thing, that if you do right by your partners, then that will come back. My whole business has really been built around these handfuls of relationships, and these relationships have stayed with me for decades. And some of those relationships are with architects. And so it seemed like, well, the hottest architect in the world today is King Okuma, and I'm his largest client outside of Japan. So why wouldn't I want to try my hand in Tokyo? Because the best work in the world is in Tokyo. So if I'm going to judge how we're doing, I should judge not against my peers in Vancouver, or Seattle, or Toronto, or Silicon Valley. I should judge myself against our peers in Tokyo, because that's where the best work is happening. I really do think that at the end of the day, that is the most important thing culturally within my practice, or as my children come into the business, that I would want to emphasize, which is this idea that our entire construct has been built around this handful of relationships and these partnerships, and not taking a transactional view on life, but saying, you know what, I might leave something on the table on this one. I could have done it differently, but instead saying, yeah, but what's important is that I'm building a relationship, and I'm building a partnership with someone that hopefully will go on for decades and generational. And whether that's a tenant, or whether that's a buyer of an apartment who you hope will buy multiple apartments over the years, or whether that's a lender, or whether that's an equity partner, we've done all of this business and had all this growth because we literally have 3 or 4 partners who each have done a dozen or more projects with us. Mm-hmm. And they just kind of line up and they say, okay, when's our next one? When's our next one? When's our next one? And so it's allowed us to grow a business without having to go public or go raise funds. And I think the last thing I would say on this is, about 2/3 of our projects we do with partners and 1/3 we do on our own. The projects I do with partners are far more interesting to me and far more rewarding because you get to share, you know, and as a result, you end up working twice as hard on a project where they have a partner as you do with one that you don't. Because the one that if you don't have a partner, you're just judging yourself.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, you know, how did it do? Well, how do you feel about it yourself? How did the economics work out? How does the community feel about it? Great. But a project that you do with your partner has a whole other dimension. And that is, did you live up to the bargain between the two of you? And do you feel proud of the fact that they feel proud to have been involved with you? And I think that's a big part of it.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julio Lopez. I'm the CEO and founder of Alas Express here in Chile, South America. Alas Express, it's last mile company here in Chile. I have got the idea by trying to solve a problem. 9 years ago, I was searching for a postal service partner capable of reaching every home in Chile, no matter the address. After working with every company in the last mile industry, I concluded that there was no company or companies combined capable of providing quality delivery service countrywide. So in 2017, we founded Alas in order to fulfill this need. Being naive by believing everyone follows the same values when doing business, and our strategy of starting from scratch without a working base or an investors. Others were just part of the journey. When no one knows who you are, nobody trusts you. If nobody trusts you, no one will hire your service. No one will lend you money, and you will be asked for more to apply for the same. Focus, focus, and more focus. During each crisis, I revisit the answer to the question that encouraged us to start Alas. Does the need we want to fulfill still exist? Does our service fulfill such need? Do we focus 100% of our time and effort on the impeccable execution of our services? If the answer to all questions is yes, I push forward with all my might. If I have doubts regarding any of the three answers, we rethink our plan of action, adjust the course, and I push forward with all my might. All members must have the same values. Work under an umbrella of a culture that holds collaboration on its core values. The strengths of each member must be a perfect match to the main requirement of their role: clear responsibilities and open communication. I think that an excellent and impeccable execution is just as important as the idea. Sometimes a not so great idea may succeed due to a brilliant execution, but not the other way around. An adventure is a long road that becomes more sustainable with others. In June, we will have 4 years working in Alas. The first time is really hard because you have to do everything, and you walk always near the death. Resilience and perseverance. Sometimes you have a big times, and sometimes you have very hard times. Right now, we are in a very good path. We are growing very fast, but at the same time, we start to to do things related to our past life. I work for a corporation for about 22 years. The last 10 years of my last experience was as a CEO of a multinational company here in Chile. So I used to do another things, a very different things like I start doing with others, because you know it's a venture, so you have to be open to do anything. The better moments right now is when I think that I can apply all my experience, all my professional experience to create value in Alas. You feel that you are the owner, the real owner of your time, but you have less time than ever. Right now, more than 200 families depend on Alas.
Hi, my name is Jason Trost. I'm the CEO and founder of Markitz. Markitz is a global betting exchange. We let people bet with each other rather than betting against the bookie. We're based in London. We have offices in Malta and Los Angeles as well. We're about 110 staff, revenue of 30 million, profitable. Our home market is the UK, but we're expanding to the nascent US sports betting market in Colorado and Indiana. There's always something a little bit crazy about entrepreneurs. You know, from a very early age, I always wanted to do something like that. I think, you know, there was Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, of course, as early inspiration. But one of the things that got me into this particular business is I was a trader in Chicago, and I came across a website that would let people trade the presidential election. And I thought, this is amazing that you could trade the outcome of an election. You know, I was trading stocks and I didn't really know this or that about this company, but I trade. But with the US election, I thought this is amazing. But even though I had a degree in computer science and was a professional trader, I thought that there's got to be a better way to do that. And that's what got me started on this journey. There's two main pillars to what we're trying to do. Basically trying to innovate on the margin in sports betting. Globally, roughly, you know, all kinds of sports bets have different margin. But globally speaking, it's around 7 to 10% margin, which is incredibly expensive. So imagine going to an ATM cash point and spending 7% transaction fee. It's insane. So we're trying to innovate on price and get it to be low margin, about 1% margin. And the second thing we're trying to do is basically use betting as a news source. So, you know, is Biden going to get reelected? Is Trump going to get reelected? Is Brexit going to happen? We have markets around these global interesting markets, and there's no better way to prognosticate the future than with the betting market. I wanted something that had to do with markets. You know, most sports betting companies have the word bet in the title, but because, you know, one of the reasons I founded this is I love the fact that we can trade events. You know, I'm into politics. I love the fact that you can trade elections. So I didn't want bet in the title. And Markets is loosely a portmanteau between Markits is loosely a portmanteau between smart and markets, although it doesn't necessarily mean that, but that's kind of the idea behind the name. Our culture has gone through many, many different iterations. We've gone from more transparent, open to more closed, hierarchical, but I think at its core is basically treating people like humans. It sounds very trivial to say, but we take being human very seriously at our company. And I think if you start from the position that you really, really care about culture, it doesn't matter so much as the decisions you make, as long as you start from that perspective of actually not giving it lip service and giving it proper resources. So we start from there. We've tried many different things, from transparent salaries, set your own salaries, unlimited holidays, all those kinds of fun things. And I have many experiences with a lot of those. But at its core, the one thing that stayed constant is that we really care about our staff. Entrepreneurship, without a doubt, has got to be one of the most challenging things that you can do. We've had everything from, you know, key people resigning to having cash flow issues to losing customers for various reasons. You know, maybe one of our competitors did a competitive offer that was quite damaging to us. So there isn't one particular moment that stands out, but I would say many series of events, probably on the order of something serious happens once every few months that you just have to deal with, and it's part of the job. Fear is one of those things that I've been fortunate to not have that emotion. It's not really, I think like I'm bad at many things, but being afraid is not one of them. So that's been one of the things that has been easier for me to deal with. I would say anxiety is probably something that has been something that I've had to deal with. And, a lot of it's cliche, but exercising, talking to a therapist, talking to your friends. I'm in a group called YPO that I share my ups and downs with, a lot more downs and ups, but it's one of the best things that I do. So whether it's fear or anxiety, I think it's really important that you have positive outlets to deal with your emotions. It's a very personal moment, but it's still something that really resonated with me. My brother and I are big fans of the soccer game FIFA. And my brother said, "I'll know you made it when I see your logo on one of the jerseys." Now, we didn't sponsor a Premier League team, but we sponsored a championship team. So we were on the front of the jersey on QPR. And it was a very proud moment to basically to be able to share that with my brother, basically seeing my company's logo on FIFA. So that was one of my proudest moments. At Smarkits, we work with many external accountants, consultants, and lawyers. I have lots of experience with good lawyers, bad lawyers, and I would say there's some traits between that I can share. The ones that the relationships that I have the most success with are the ones where I feel like that person really cares about my success, beyond lip service, beyond sort of schmoozing at a cocktail party. Like the ones that I build a relationship with, there's a lot of meaning into that. Ones that give a lot of, I know everybody needs to make money, but one of the things I don't like as an entrepreneur is that feeling of when I'm on the clock with a lawyer. And so if I feel that I'm not on the clock, and I understand that they'll need to get paid at some point, but not that every email is invoiced. I like that feeling more. So I feel like we can have more of a conversation about deep issues, and I'm not like, stop talking because you're billing me for all the waffling that you're saying. But I think good people skills, and it's hard to get good people skills, but good people skills, beyond being charismatic, actually caring, being intelligent, learning the other person's problems, being empathetic, being there to help. Being there to help is very important. Like those go a long way in finding the people that I prefer to work with.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vanessa Taya. I'm one of the co-founders of MyHab, and I'm very happy to be here with you in the Ally Law Conference. And of course, I would like to thank personally Juan Pablo Cardinal, who asked me and invited me to join you today. We are three original co-founders, Alejandra, Patricia, and myself, and afterwards Hernan joined us. So we started and we made our whole career in the corporate sector. We worked for more than 20 years in Accenture, working across Latin America in many technology projects. And we decided that somehow of our career to do something else completely different and jump from the corporate to the entrepreneurship world, which of course we learned is completely different. To be honest, originally our objective was not to integrate education with employment. As I told you, we work in the corporate sector where we suffer from in first person what was the lack of talent about. So there was by 2017 it was the first big wave of lack of talent in technology. And that was really bringing us some drawbacks in selling and delivering technology projects. So we decided to do something about it. And of course, we understood what was available in the market and in all the research, and we started and launched our services. So in 2018, we started with MyHab, which was basically focused on educational services. Bringing education different from the traditional education that we are used to in high school or in university, based on the bootcamps methodology that is very popular right now. And we, of course, added on top of that our whole experience on working that we brought from our employment experience, okay? And when we began employing our students, we realized the impact that we made in our students. The impact that sometimes they would change their possibilities and change their job opportunities, and we really have an impact on their lives. Okay, we all the co-founders come from a company with a very strong culture, and building our own was not something that we do it from the very beginning very consciously, but at a certain point of the growth, we had to stop and say, okay, what kind of team, what kind of company we like to build. And it's important to share with your employees and even our students and to live with them our core values in order to know that your teams are growing in the way you want. So we've been working with MyHub for 3 years. We have an alumni of more than 1,500 hubbers with more than 40 cohorts and a lot of numbers. And we work with a lot of companies, both providing services to companies and providing talent to these companies as well. I think we learn the value of resilience. I think resilience is one of the biggest drivers, value, and everything that must rule your team when becoming an entrepreneur. We decided that we have to get out from the Corona crisis better and stronger than we were getting it. And this is what this sentence, this phrase was something that we repeatedly, constantly during all the 2020. So if we have to face this problem and face this solution, we have to do it in a way that we end up this Corona crisis better and more stronger than the way we entered it. And I think this decision, sometimes unconscious, is living the resilience. And we think resilience is learned. It's a behavior resulting from people, skills, attitudes, and experiences. And the more, the better team you have, the better skills, attitudes, and experiences you will have within it. So I think, especially when hard moments arrive, having a team that you can trust, partners that you can trust, is key. So to end with my presentations, I would like to share with you some lessons that we learned, okay? Of course, the one that you probably heard 100 times, we have many times to realize that we have to fall in love with the problem and not with the solution. We are not architects. We have to understand the market. And when we thought we already understood it and we already understood the problem, we have to go all over and all over again. We had to learn to pitch everywhere. We learn really the power of trusted relationships. We couldn't be here if we didn't have the relationships that we had when starting this project, that we didn't realize that we have even. It was not something that we were very conscious about. The team, the partners, I think it's key. I wouldn't even think about launching a startup without having good partners. And I think I have the best ones. And always think big. Everything that we think, okay, is this scalable or not? So have that in mind. We learned that it's very, very important. So this is just a little, some moments that we lived during these first 3 years, and we really had a good time. I can assure you that, with a lot of work, but a lot of good moments as well. And finally, let me thank you again for letting me share MyHub with you. Bye-bye.